cases that you need to ask your client what he or she thinks or should bring to the table, and this will give you effective delivery. Service users talk of relationship based on warmth, empathy, reliability, and respect. That is to say, when you are relating with your client, it should be warm and empathetic. And we all know the meaning of empathy. Which person camera business? Going to last videos. May find it difficult trying to approach you even when there is need. So we don't want that kind of relationship between a service provider and a service user. Are we together? All right, we proceed. Now, so what then is social work? What is social work? I want to believe that everyone on this platform is or was a student of social work or is a practicing social worker. So what is social work? I may welcome comments from those in the class. If you want to speak, you can just use your hand-raising emoji. Are we together? Okay, I'll proceed. Social work is an applied or behavioral science profession that promotes human rights, social justice, peace and conflict resolutions, engendering social change, problem solving, and sustainable development in human relationships, focusing on empowerment and liberation of people, and enhancing the well-being of individuals, family, group, and communities. They make use of theories of human behavior and the social system. However, you want to come up with your own definition, but from the one I've just stated, all the ingredients are there. The crux of the matter is, first of all, is an applied or behavioral profession. It is, we use some kind of scientific, social scientific ways of doing things. And what we are bringing to the table or what we want to promote is human rights, social justice, and the rest. We want to impact positively on individuals, families, group, and community. So get the important points and you can define what social work is all about. Then we need to know that people or the human society is largely dependent on social systems to realize their aspirations and to cope with their life tasks. So in order to realize their life tasks, people have to interact with three kinds of resource systems in the social environment. These three types of resource systems include one, informal or natural resource system. When we say informal, let's break it down. So let's break it down. When we say informal setting, it has to do with family, friends, that's our own family, friends, neighbors, and co-workers. It is really informal. We don't need to go into form filling. These are perhaps people you meet on a daily basis. So it's informal. Then we have the formal resource setting, which consists of those in some organizations, trade union organizations, or other sociocultural organizations. Then the last one, social resource systems like school, hospitals, housing societies, police, bank, etc. That is to say, all these resource systems work with social work practice. Now, social work practice has its purpose, and they include the following, but not limited to. The purpose of social work profession is to promote human and community well-being, guided by a person and environment construct, a global perspective, respect for human diversity, and knowledge based on scientific inquiry. Social work in its various forms addresses the multiple, complex environment. Its mission is to enable all people to develop their full potentials, enrich their lives, and prevent dysfunction. When we say dysfunction, some persons can come to a point in their life that they feel that they don't have anything worth living for or contributing to the society. But if this should happen, the social workers can get the person back to their feet depending on where they find themselves. Competent social work must be purposeful. There must be a purpose for this. So, social work's purpose is to realize through its pursuit for social and economic justice, the prevention of conditions that limit human rights, the elimination of poverty, and the enhancement of quality of life for all persons, with a commitment to respect the dignity and worth of all people and the profession's pursuit for social justice. Social workers equally have their duties. What could be the duties of social workers? The duties of social workers are numerous, and they include the following: respecting the right to self-determination. What does this mean? Social workers are expected to respect and promote people's rights to make their own choices and decisions, irrespective of their life value and life choices, provided this does not threaten the rights and legitimate interests of others. So, if a person wants to do one thing or the other, that's the person's choice. But the important point is that it should not threaten someone else's rights. It shouldn't in any way threaten someone else's choices or interests. The second duty is to promote the right to participation. All humans have a right to take part or get involved in issues affecting them. They should, use services in a way that will be enable them to get empowered. They can come up with decisions that affect their lives. So they should take part. It's not just about telling them what to do, but let them contribute. Will this be okay, or it should be done this way? I will better appreciate services given to me through this form. That is participation, is their right. The third one, treating each other as a whole. That is to say, as an individual. Treat a person as a unique being. Social workers should be concerned with the whole person within the family, community, societal and natural environment, and should seek to recognize all aspects of a person's life. Identify and develop strength. Social workers should focus on the strength of all individuals, groups and communities, and promote their empowerment. They should also challenge negative discrimination. What do we mean by this? They have the responsibility to challenge negative discrimination on the basis of characteristics such as one's ability, one's age, culture, gender, sex, marital status, socioeconomic status, and the like. If a social worker watches how a person is being discriminated against and does nothing about, he or she has failed in his or her duty. So we do not discriminate and we don't want others to discriminate. It is one of our responsibilities to help others. There are a lot of duties. So another one is recognizing diversity. Social workers should recognize and respect the ethnic and cultural diversity of the society in which they practice. So don't think that because in someone else's environment or territory, you expect them to behave traditionally or culturally like yours. Is not possible. What we need to do is to even perhaps understudy the way they do things, try to follow it so that we can deliver our services competently. Distributing resources equitably. Social workers should ensure that resources at their disposal are distributed fairly according to need and ensure service users are linked to resources. So if that becomes our duty, we shouldn't be partial. We shouldn't try to hoard certain things, but we should do it fairly, and that will bring about justice. Then working in solidarity means everyone should be carried along. They should work towards an inclusive society. Everyone should be carried along appropriately, not discriminated against or being stigmatized. Then the next slide says, why are social work competencies important? Why is it important? Reason a social worker should be competent. One, it helps the person to take responsibility for his or her conduct, that is accountability. They will support with ethical decision making, help promote excellent practice, enable us to show professional commitment, help evidence helps evidence our knowledge. That's it will bring our knowledge to bear. It will show that we know this thing, help to maintain a positive attitude, enables us to take charge of our professional development. When we talk about professional development, we will not wait for maybe if we are already working in an agency, we may wait for them to train us. It may not happen in our society, but if you take responsibility for your training and growth by attending workshops, conferences, perhaps do some short courses that are recognized. It shows that you are taking responsibility for your professional development. Support with learning new skills, help us to understand our roles as social workers. And when we talk about roles, our roles are universal. Our roles are different from our duties and responsibilities depending on the agencies. One thing about role is that the role that is practiced here in Nigeria, Africa, is the same thing that is practiced in other parts of the world because it's a standard. I don't know how many of us in this class know or can mention some of our roles because I really need us to distinguish between roles and duties. Someone should tell me at least a few of our roles. We have a number of them. Okay, let me go to participant. I'll call names now. Monday praise. Can you name any? Favor Oloma, Austin Michael, I need someone to mention at least a few of our roles because we need to distinguish it from duties and responsibilities. I'm listening. Ah, so even the people I've called their names, they've said they won't tell me anything. So we just keep going. All right, let me state a few rules. One of our roles is that of a mediator. We could work as mediators, educators, communicators, facilitators, researchers all over the world. These ones that I've mentioned and others are practice same. Remember, the role well. It could be a group of persons, it could be a family, it could be a community. Depending on what happens, you could be their facilitator, you could be their advocate. But when it comes to duties and responsibilities, these ones are streamlined depending on the agency you are working at that time. I could take my own agency as an example. I work in the hospital. When I go to work in the morning or anytime I go to work, one of the things I need to do is to go on ward rounds. So a person that is working in the school, a school social worker won't go to the ward. I will do home visits for for patients whom I need to bring in their family members to help. But if a person is working perhaps in another agency, that may not happen. So our duties and responsibilities depend on where we are working. But when it comes to role, they are universal and could be practiced depending on the situation we find ourselves with our clients. I hope that is taken. All right. Now we are going to talk about the core competencies in social work practice. I think we have about 9 of them. And I will want you to read it widely, even after this class, because they are very, very important. Social work core competencies represent the dimensions of social work practice that all social workers are expected to master during their professional training and practice. The first one is demonstrate ethical and professional behavior. That simply means know your ethics and live by it, practice by the ethics of social work profession. Well, even if I ask, nobody will answer. But some of our ethics include transparency, confidentiality, and this confidentiality in all professions, not only ours, it's always popping up. Confidentiality. We are expected to be punctual when we have an appointment with our client. Our dress code should be modest. Both ladies and gentlemen, they're expected to dress modestly. Shouldn't be revealing or something that will attract sexual arousal. We should have respect for our clients. These and many others are our ethics. So it is expected that we know this and practice it. live by it when we are dealing with our clients. And of course, living by our ethics, we've got to know some relevant laws that regulate social work profession. Depending on who you'll be meeting, there are some laws that should guide us. I think I know, I can remember, like the child rights. Children have rights. We should be able to, read about them and know the rights that they have, and we should allow them to live by this right because they are entitled to it. We have the divorce law, marital law, juvenile law. We even have the lunacy law. Yeah, lunacy law. That's when you are dealing with people who have mental health issues. We have the poor law. How do you treat the poor? These laws guide social work practice. Social workers are expected to know it. So in our first competency, we must demonstrate ethical and professional behavior. Now, the second one is engage diversity and difference in practice. Diversity. That simply means that there are multiple factors that will help us in our practice, and they include, but not limited to, the age of our clients, their class, that's socioeconomic class, color, culture, disability and ability, ethnicity, gender identity and expression, immigration status, marital status, political ideology, race, religion and spirituality, sex, sexual orientation, and tribal sovereign status. So this diversity is, we have to, hold it dear so that when we are meeting with our clients, we will know how to engage with them in our different practice. Social workers should understand the forms and mechanism of oppression and discrimination and recognize the extent to which a culture's structures and values, including social, economic, political, and cultural exclusion, may oppress, marginalize, annihilate, or create privilege and power. Social workers present themselves as learners and engage clients and constituencies as experts of their own experiences. That is to say, in communities that have diverse cultures, at some point you become a learner. You need to learn from them so that you don't cross boundaries. You don't do what is not expected in that culture. When you learn, you will be able to give your service or services appropriately without having issues. Social workers must also apply and communicate understanding of importance of diversity and difference in shaping life experiences in practice at the micro, meso, and the macro levels. The third competence is advance human rights and social, economic, and environmental justice. Here, social workers understand that every person, regardless of position in society, has fundamental human rights, such as their safety, freedom, privacy, adequate standard of living, healthcare, and education. These are fundamental human rights. So they have this. To this end, social workers should apply their understanding of social, economic, and environmental justice to advocate for human rights at the individual and system level. They need to engage in practices that advance social, economic, and environmental justice. Then, for the fourth one, they're expected to engage, that social workers are expected to engage in practice-informed research and research-informed practice. That is to say, if we must practice, it must be up to date. we've done enough research to see that this is what is done that's most currently in engage in practice-informed research and research-informed practice. Social workers understand quantitative and qualitative research methods and their respective roles in advancing a science of social work and in evaluating their practice. They use practice experience and theory to inform scientific inquiry and research. They also use and translate research evidence to inform and improve practice, policy, and service delivery. So when we talk about quantitative and qualitative research, in fact, I understand that all of you are students, so you should know what is quantitative and qualitative research, which tools you are using, whether questionnaire or questions or focus group discussions, so that you can get adequate information while you are practicing. Then the fifth one, engage in policy practice. When we say policy, policy simply means guidelines, rules, or plan of actions which may be adopted by either government or an organization. So social workers understand that human rights and social justice, as well as social welfare and services, are mediated by policy and its implementation at the federal, state, and at the local level. Social workers identify social policy at the local level and federal level that impacts well-being, service delivery, and access to social services. What is important here is that however you want to practice, let it be policy-based. There should be rules, there should be guidelines. Otherwise, if you're not practicing according to the rules or guidelines, some persons could come up with practices that, land them into trouble. So it should be policy-based. Know the guidelines, know the rules, whether of an organization or that of the government. Number 6, engage with individuals, families, groups, and organizations, also with communities. So when we talk about our clients, I've said here, and we know that a client is not just an individual. A client can be an individual, fine and good. It could be a family. It could be a group of persons with same need or same interest, an organization or a community. So social workers must understand that engagement is an ongoing component of the dynamic and interactive process of social work practice, which, and on behalf of diverse individuals, families, groups, organizations, and communities. Social workers value the importance of human relationships. Of course, because they do, they work with empathy. They use empathy, reflection, and interpersonal skills to effectively engage diverse clients and constituency. We had talked a little about empathy. Whatever you think would have been the right thing for a service user to do to you, a service provider, do the same. Think about it. Put yourself in their shoes and act right. The last one, number 7 is assess individuals, families, group, organizations, and communities. By assess or assessment, we mean evaluate or estimate the quality and value. So social workers understand that assessment is an ongoing component of the dynamic and interactive process of social work practice. So it's ongoing for this group of persons or for your client. Assessment will help social workers develop mutual agreement on the goals they want to reach. That's mutual agreement between the social worker and the service user. If they have come to such an agreement, it will be easy for the service user to work towards this goal. But if based on assessment, the social worker is just the person giving out directive, this is going to be done, you must do this, and there's no mutual agreement, the service user will only listen, after will walk away and nothing happens. Then the social worker should select appropriate intervention strategies based on the assessment, research knowledge, and values and preferences of client and constituencies. The eighth competency is intervene with individuals, family, group, organization, and communities. Intervene means intervention. Do something. Whatever you have planned, now try to actualize it. Step in. So social workers understand that intervention is an ongoing component of a dynamic and interactive process of social work practice. They are knowledgeable about evidence-informed intervention to achieve the goals of clients and constituencies. Social workers understand theories of human behavior and the social environment and critically evaluate and apply this knowledge to effectively intervene with clients and constituencies. Social workers are also expected to use interprofessional collaboration as appropriate to achieve beneficial practice outcome. Interprofessional collaboration. By this I mean in a team, you know, working to provide services for a client. Let me take my own agency as an example. Taking care of a patient is not a one-man business. No matter the cause the person read, it's not a one-man business. There are other professionals around that patient. So there's something called interprofessional collaboration. If we want a patient to be well, everybody that works in a team must get to do their work right. Beginning from the health record officer. When the person comes to the hospital, doesn't just walk in and see a doctor, but will meet with the health record officer who will take their information, put them down in the folder, be it an electronic folder or a hard copy. So we can imagine if that person did not take proper information, that is what others may work with. Then from that stage, the person may have to meet with a nurse who will take vital signs and get it recorded before seeing the doctor. Even while seeing the doctor may not see you alone. One or two persons may be there, let alone if the person is being admitted. During ward rounds, the whole team get to see patients, the doctor, the nurses, social workers, depending on what is wrong with the person. If he had bone problem, the orthopedic technicians will be there. The pharmacists will be there, physiotherapists will be, dietitians. So it makes up a whole team. That's why we say use interprofessional collaboration as appropriate to achieve beneficial practice outcome. So depending on who we are seeing, we have interprofessional collaboration to achieve our goal. Then the last one, evaluate practice with individuals, families, group, and organizations. So evaluation is very important. At this point, we get to know what have we done so far. Social workers recognize the importance of evaluating processes and outcomes to advance practice, policy, and service delivery effectiveness. The social workers understand theories of human behavior and the social environment and critically evaluate and apply this knowledge in evaluating outcomes. So they will select and use appropriate methods for evaluation of outcomes, apply knowledge of human behavior and the social environment, critically analyze, monitor, and evaluate interventions and program processes and outcomes. So it is very important to evaluate. During this time, they will analyze, monitor, and re-evaluate the intervention program to see the outcome. If the outcome is not successful, they will have to replan and go back to that. Now that we are done with the core competencies, 9 of them, we are going to move into another subheading, rapport building. Now, how do we build rapport? First of all, what is rapport? Rapport is getting on well with other person or group of people by having things in common. This makes the communication process easier and usually more effective. Rapport building is about developing a connection, trust, and understanding with others. It is crucial for effective communication and building successful relationships in workplace. So at place of work, we will be meeting both clients and our colleagues, fellow caregivers. So it is important to build rapport. Rapport building is a crucial aspect of every relationship, especially for social workers. One could ask how? By establishing strong relationships and connection with the service users, that is the client, significant others. When we say significant others, it could be significant others for our that's our fellow caregivers, like our supervisors, and for the client, it could be people that are well meaning to them, could be a spouse, a child, and so on. So we have strong relationship with service users, significant others, family, community, and the social worker can achieve positive outcome and make a lasting impact. Through active listening, respect for cultural norms, and collaboration, field officers, that is social workers, can build trust, enhance communication, and engage the community. But if a person does not build rapport, in fact, it will be difficult. The communication may be breached and trust will fail, and there may not be success in what we are out to achieve. However, rapport building has a lot of benefits, and this include enhanced communication. If we build rapport, we will communicate effectively with both our colleagues and our clients. It will bring about trust and cooperation. Then we will have improved relationship. Rapport building strengthens relationship by creating a positive and supportive environment. Then the fourth benefit is that it will help to resolve conflict. If we have not built rapport, conflict may come and it will last and may even stay. It may stay to an extent that we will even wonder, or the service users may wonder if there will be success in where they're heading to. So rapport building, if we have rapport, good rapport, we will be able to resolve conflicts easily. It will also improve productivity. Rapport building positively impacts productivity by fostering better communication, cooperation, and teamwork. So it is important that we build rapport with both our colleagues and the service users. Then, but how are we going to build rapport? So we move to techniques for building rapport. One way we can do this is by listening actively. When a service user is talking to us, we've got to give the person full attention, maintain eye contact, show genuine interest, and avoid interrupting the person. Or if you want to show the person that you really understand what the person is saying, you can paraphrase or summarize what the person is saying, the point the person just made. However, it will be a sign of disrespect both to the service provider and the service user if you are being distracted, especially by your phone. It is it's a sad situation that we see many persons today when they're talking to their clients, not until it is even your client. If somebody is talking to you or you're talking to someone, if it's a discussion, just even if it's an informal discussion, the only way you can show that you are listening is to let your hands and eyes off your phone for that moment, that period, let alone discussing with your client. So the best you have to do, give the person full attention and don't get distracted with your phone. If a person is distracted, imagine if the person is talking to you and also listening, also, touching phone, fondling the phone. That will not be fine. Another way of building rapport is with non-verbal communication. Of course, we know non-verbal means you are not talking, but your body language can show. Maybe your facial expression, if there's something that makes you surprised, if you show it, it means that you're following the person's complaint. It could be a smile, it could be a nod. All this shows that you are following, and these are methods of non-verbal communication. Then another technique is to establish a common ground. How? Find shared interests, experiences, or values that create a sense of connection. Look for commonalities in hobbies, cultural background, or goals to establish a foundation for rapport. Then the fourth way is to show empathy. Demonstrate understanding and compassion towards others' feelings, perspective, and challenges. Acknowledge their emotions and validate their experiences to create a supportive environment. When we show empathy, we will acknowledge other people's emotions. Then the fifth benefit is adapt communication style. Adjust your communication approach to match the preferences and needs of others. Observe their communication style, pace, and level of formality, and adapt accordingly to create a comfortable and effective interaction. By this we mean, if you're talking to someone of low educational background, it is expected that you will use simple English, break them down to the simplest way, or if they can understand pidgin, all this you will do so that you can communicate. It is not when you are communicating with such a person, we begin to use high-handed English and speak very fast. At the end of it, we may achieve nothing. So use simple language, speak clearly, and adapt your communication style to ensure understanding and build rapport. Another benefit is that we will build trust. Build trust by demonstrating reliability, integrity, and consistency in your actions and words. So if, for example, you made a promise, or both of you and your client have agreed on a particular thing, live on that. That's live up to that expectation. You said by right you are going to accompany your client to do one formal thing or the other. Don't come up with excuses. He or she may be waiting and expecting that this should be carried out. So live or deliver on your promises. So we have mentioned about 6 benefits of building rapport. There could be others. There could be other benefits. However, these 6 for now is okay. So now we've talked about rapport building. Let's move on to confidentiality. All this that we are talking about is a way of being competent. If you build rapport, know your, core competencies. You are working towards being a competent social worker. And when you are competent, you will be able to deliver quality services to your client. Okay, so let's move to confidentiality. One could ask, what is confidentiality? Okay, I thought I was spot on. What is confidentiality? Are we together? All right. Confidentiality refers to the ethical and legal duty to protect sensitive information from unauthorized access, use, or disclosure. It is the act of keeping information private and ensuring that it is only accessible to those who have a legitimate need to know. So, when we are dealing with our clients, whatever they tell us, we do not have to disclose it to unauthorized persons. Yes, because if we work with our clients, we may need to come back and report to our supervisor. So at that point, our supervisor is not an unauthorized person. But after working with our client, then we go home, then we release all the story to our family members. Perhaps as a wife, you go home, excuse me, you go home, talk about it with your husband, or your husband talk about it with the wife, and even mention the client's name, perhaps where the person lives and all that. I mean, confidentiality has been broken badly there. You do not know how your spouse or your child will go and give this information outside, and it could just filter into the ears of the client. That would be very sad. Some clients who know their rights have, taken such matters to court. So we don't take listening to them and now releasing their stories to the public for granted is highly unacceptable. Each time I talk about confidentiality, I usually love to bring up this scenario that happened in my agency. I didn't meet that very person, but my supervisor then, each time she talks confidentiality with us, she will always bring it up. A nurse was employed. She was employed and she worked in a place we call special clinic. Special clinic is a clinic that cares for people who have been diagnosed of HIV/AIDS. We do not want them to feel bad, so we call it special. Earlier, they were calling it PEFA. Everybody knew it had to do with them, but we call it special, how whatever it is now. In that clinic, if you go to that clinic and you see someone you know and the person quickly pretends not to know you, please leave the person alone. Leave the person alone. If you want to do, you've not seen me, the person may run away from that clinic and may not come to continue with that medication. Now, in my agency, a certain nurse saw a man she knew very well, and I mean very, very well. When you say our family friend, yes, that is it. The man comes to that clinic to take his medications, but didn't come with the partner she knows, that is his wife. He rather came with another partner, maybe a girlfriend or something. So they've been taking medications together. The wife lives in Abuja. So she felt she wanted to do her friend good. She called the wife after a while and did amebo because that was outright. It was very, very unethical. Like I said, all other professionals, all other professions work with this ethic of confidentiality. All professions. So she had no excuse. She opened up, asked the woman a few questions, and now told the woman that her husband come to the clinic to take some medications with another person. Well, that is devastating. First, to know that your husband is taking this medication without you. So when the man went back to Abuja, the wife brought up the topic. The man said, okay, I'm not going to deny. I'm taking these medications from UCTH, fine and good. Now, you see this marriage. If this marriage must hold or continue, you must give me the name of the person who gave you the information. So we can imagine what happened. She doesn't want to lose her marriage. She mentioned the nurse name. And what did this man know? His knowledge, he's exposed. He just met his lawyer, and the lawyer wrote to the hospital because that information wasn't supposed to get to his house as at that time. Not that it would not have gotten there. Only God knows when it would have gotten home, but it wasn't her place to mention it. What the hospital did was to invite her, and the man claimed damages. Now the man is claiming damages on the hospital. The hospital, one of the things they will do, they will, after they have, searched around, done their investigation, they just dismissed you. They dismissed her because I think she was still on probation, was dismissed, and that is where the story ended. So when we talk about confidentiality, it is very, very important. We do not disclose information, especially sensitive information, to unauthorized persons. However, confidentiality can be broken when there is a compelling legal reason or need, and when there is security or safety reason. Confidentiality can be broken. But let us first of all know that we've got to keep the information until there's such compelling reason. Okay, legal and ethical consideration when it comes to confidentiality. The legal framework that we've got to get ourselves familiarized with. Confidentiality, if a person misbehaves, we simply know that other procedures may follow. Now, there are the legal framework. Familiarize yourself with the relevant laws and regulations that governs confidentiality in your field of work. There are relevant bodies in Nigeria that take care of this. That is why in our phones, we've been hearing end-to-end, what do they call it? End-to-end encryption. So this may include data protection laws, privacy regulations, or industry-specific guidelines. For example, in Nigeria, the National Information Technology Development Agency has issued the Nigeria Data Protection Regulation to safeguard personal data. So these days, we've seen that people that invade our private space and perhaps steal from us, if you can follow it up, the law clamps down on them. There should also be what is called consent and authorization. If you've not consented to someone giving out your information, or you've not authorized, the law will not be smiling at such persons. Data security. Take necessary measures to protect the confidentiality and integrity of data. That is data that you've collected from your client. Then data retention and disposal. At the end of it, you could return it or dispose it. If you don't have need for it again, or you're done with that case, Then we also have confidentiality agreement. Use confidentiality agreement or non-disclosure agreement when appropriate, especially when sharing confidential information with third parties. Then, professional codes of conduct. Be aware of any professional code of conduct or ethical guidelines that apply to your field of practice or area of practice. So, like in my own case, our area of practice in the hospital, some persons practice social work in the school, some practice in the prison, and the like. This code often emphasize the importance of confidentiality, integrity, and respect for privacy. And number 7, breach response. Establish a plan for handling and responding to breaches of confidentiality. That is when confidentiality is broken. These include promptly addressing breaches, notifying affected parties, and taking appropriate remedial action. So, like I was trying to say, at some point, confidentiality can be broken, but let the person, the other party, understand why it is going to be broken or why it is broken. If the person keeps saying no, the law too will come after the person because you are trying to protect other persons, whether you know them or not, from some actions that may not go down well with him or her. Importance of confidentiality. Why is confidentiality important? It will bring about trust and respect. It will protect a person's privacy. It is part of professionalism and it is ethical. So maintaining confidentiality demonstrates professionalism, ethical conduct, and adherence to professional standard or code of ethics. It shows that the service provider or the social worker takes privacy seriously and are committed to upholding the rights and well-being of individuals or their clients. Then there is another reason, safety and security. Confidentiality helps protect individuals from potential harm, including identity theft, fraud, discrimination, or other negative consequences that may arise from the unauthorized use or disclosure of personal information. Number 5, compliance with the law and regulation. So keeping confidentiality is just one of the things that is expected by the law, and it is a regulation that must be kept. Reputation and trustworthiness. So if we go through, we can see that these and many more are the importance of confidentiality. Then, how can confidentiality be best practiced? Confidentiality best practices. How? Access control. As social workers, it is crucial to protect confidential information by limiting access to authorized personnel only. For example, each social worker should have their own unique login credentials to access the organization's database or file system. This ensures that only authorized individuals can view and handle sensitive data. It is beautiful to say this, but in some agencies, I wouldn't say in our country, because I know that there are some agencies that there's real access control. If you don't have any business with those information, you will not be allowed to perhaps log into the database or the file of this client. Example, each social worker will have their own username and password to log in into NGO's beneficiary management system. Not only NGOs, currently, like in my agency, we are using our folders now are online. Is it online? No, that's not what I want to say. We have soft copy folders. So if I don't have any business with a particular patient, I will open it. Nobody will give me the password to that very page. I can't access it. But the ones I have business with, they will give me. I can log in, do what I read through the folder, make my own input, and leave. So access control is very, very important. Then we also have encryption. When communicating sensitive information electronically, it's important to use encryption to secure the data. Encrypted messaging apps or email services can be used to protect the confidentiality of the information being transmitted. Of course, we all have that in our phones. Secure storage. Social workers should store confidential documents and files in secure locations, both physically and digitally. Physical documents can be stored in locked cabinets or secure rooms, while digital files should be saved in protected folders or encrypted storage device. Then another way to practice it right is training and awareness. Social workers should receive training on confidentiality best practices, emphasizing the importance of safeguarding sensitive information. Confidentiality agreement. Social workers should sign confidentiality agreement or non-disclosure agreement that outline their responsibilities in protecting confidential information. This agreement should specify the consequences of breaching confidentiality. And that is very important. If we, get into confidentiality agreement, it's going to list the consequences. And if confidentiality is broken when it is not supposed to be broken, the person will face the consequences of such action. It also helps to secure communication. Social workers should use secure communication channels when discussing sensitive matters or sharing confidential information. They should encourage the use of encrypted email services or secure messaging apps with password protection. So these and other ways can help us to practice confidentiality better. At least we have mentioned just 6 of them. As the world evolves, there could be others. There is no limit to knowledge. As as new things are coming up, so new knowledge, and we just have to try to practice right. So far, we have talked about core competencies, 9 of them. We have talked about what is rapport and how to build rapport. We've talked about confidentiality, what it is, why it should be upheld, why it should be broken, and how it can be practiced. At this moment, we are going to move to the next important subheading or a way of practice that can help us to be competent social workers, and that is advocacy. Advocacy is very, very important. Like I said, one of our roles as social worker is being an advocate. So this one is going to help us see who an advocate is and how a social worker could practice as an advocate. Well, most people are somewhat intimidated by the idea of advocacy. They believe that one needs to be an expert to begin advocacy, but that is not correct. Every social worker can be an effective advocate. But let's see how this can be done. First of all, what is advocacy? Advocacy simply means actively supporting a cause and trying to get others to support it as well. If there is something, a cause, a social worker feels that it is going to help the citizens or fellow social workers or their clients, they begin to actively support it, look for a way to speak about it, draw the attention of others, including policymakers, so that this could be achieved. Advocates use every opportunity to support their cause or issue. Advocacy is a process. That is very important. It is a process, not just an event. It is a marathon and not sprint. So that's to say, it is a continuous thing. When we start the process of advocacy, until we achieve that which we desire, the process remains on. All right, so who is an advocate? An advocate is someone who speaks on behalf of a cause or a proposal. Like I just said, we have something we know we want to do that will help either our clients or the society, I mean our community, our immediate community, then we need to speak for this thing, look for a way to make it work. The advocate may be an individual or an organization. So don't forget, when we say an advocate, it may not just be an individual. It may be, but at the same time, it could also be an organization. Advocates use every opportunity to support their cause or issues. Advocacy is a process and not an event. Now, let's find out the purposes of advocacy. What will it achieve if advocacy is done? The purpose of advocacy is to promote or reinforce a change in policy, program, or legislation, rather than providing support directly to clients or users of services. So, when we are out to promote or reinforce change in policy, when we are out to promote, we talk about it, we want to reinforce it. That is advocacy. That is the purpose of advocacy. Advocacy aims at winning support from others. That is creating a supportive environment. There are issues that we could advocate for. Issues that social workers can advocate for could be some of the problems that we try to work hard at either reducing their effects in the society or community. Such issues include domestic violence. Domestic violence generally, not just on women. We know that many a time it is women that report domestic violence, but it doesn't mean that during domestic violence, men are not affected. They too can be victims where their spouses are the ones, that their spouses, their wives are the one meting out violence on them. But of all, children are usually most affected in domestic violence. So it is an issue that should be addressed. You can also advocate for sexual abuse, early marriage of girls, gender disparity in education, social welfare for the aged, female genital mutilation, enhancing gender equity, equality, and empowerment of women. This very one, enhancing gender equity, gender equality. These are two words, but they usually look so much alike or they look familiar. However, there is a difference in these two words. When we talk about equity, gender equity, this simply equity recognizes that people have different circumstances and provide the specific resources needed to reach an equal outcome. But when we talk about equality, equality means providing the same resources, opportunities, and treatment to everyone, assuming everyone starts at the same place. So equality has to do with sameness, input, sameness, while equity is fairness. So when we want to enhance gender equity, we mean fairness for both gender. Equality means providing same resources and opportunity for everyone. So here we are talking about empowerment of women. Other issues for advocacy include promoting productive health and rights, population and development linkages, mobilizing and monitoring resources, environmental degradation, amongst others. How will we build our advocacy strategy? How can we do this? First, to build advocacy strategy, we have to follow a step-by-step plan. We must first of all identify the issue that we want to advocate for. Identify the issue we want to advocate for. Then, what is their need, their concern, or the problems they face? This should be addressed. Is the problem or the need at the local level, state level, or at the federal level? Is it a legislative issue or an administrative issue? Who can address the issue for you in the correct venue? Now, for this to happen, you have to develop your request. Make it clear and explicit. Provide a clear rationale and support your request with evidence, statistics, and report. So if you want to advocate that in your community they need so and so thing, you must provide clear evidence or statistics that shows that this thing is really, really important. What is your desired outcome? What outcomes or alternative could be acceptable? So if you want a particular facility or infrastructure to be put up, what if the people who want to provide have an alternative? Will it be okay for those who have need for it? It is still part of advocacy, so you must develop your request. How will you craft your message? Clearly and specifically state your request. What do you want them to do? Example, vote for a bill or change a regulation. Provide a sound rationale. That is, why do you want them to do it? Then explain the implications of constituents, who will be helped. Then if the request will cost money, explain the cost and how you expect your request to be funded. Communicating your request. How will you communicate your request? Determine the individuals or group to whom you will make your request to. Coordinate your request. Determine who else will you notify to be able to influence the outcome. Then develop timelines and assignment of responsibility. Don't want to do it alone. If you are an individual, be sure that others work with you. Give them some responsibility so you don't have burnout. If you don't assign people to work with you, you may get tired and give up on what you really want to do. Then polish your message. How? Make it clear, concise, compelling, persuasive, and personal. When we say clear, use terms that really tailor your terms to what you really want, not with high-handed grammar. Concise, be specific, compelling. There's a way you want them to see need or reason for this thing happening. Personal, this is what you want, and this is how you want it to be achieved. Then persuasive, let it be convincing. If it is not convincing, nothing may happen. Now, who are going to be the stakeholders during advocacy? The stakeholders include the beneficiaries. If it is the community elders should be there, members of that community should be there. Decision makers, who makes decisions, allies and partners, those who you will bring to come and help. Resistance group. Why is this one? Why the resistance group? So that they will see that there is progress and even help others to come and benefit. If the stakeholders are only those on the positive side, I mean, the thing may not have enough strength, but if you have those who resisted, working towards success will also help them. Community heads and leaders, group leaders, etc. Those are the ones who form part of stakeholders for advocacy. Now, we need to connect with these stakeholders. Know who your government leaders are at the local level, state and the federal level. These are the ones that will help you out. Make them know who you are. Get to know them on an ongoing basis. Let them know how you can help. Show them that you are resourceful and how they can help you. Then if you have elected officials, make them responsible and responsive in the constituency. What are the tactics or techniques for advocacy? One, sensitization. That simply means creating awareness, mobilizing, dialogue. Dialogue here means you've got to sit back, you people talk about it and come or reach an agreement. Then you negotiate. Lobbying. Well, lobbying in this case means communication with an official of the executive or legislative branch of government, whether state government or local government. But the ultimate purpose is to influence their administrative action. So a lobbyist is a person who takes part in an organized attempt to influence legislators. So it is important that for advocacy to be successful, we also have to lobby. Petitioning, pressuring, and informing. These are the tactics that are necessary for effective advocacy. However, when handling advocacy, there could be hindrances or roadblocks, and they include the following: lack of comfort with advocacy process. It could be time consuming, brain racking, and distressing. Sometimes when you are trying to pull through, some persons may want to pull you back and it may be frustrating, but because you know what you have at hand, you know what you want to achieve, you will try to pull through. It could be really, really brain racking. It's not something that somebody just wakes up, a social worker just wakes up and say, I want to do advocacy. What do you really want? Who have you consulted? So you have to brainstorm yourself, get what you really want before you could convince others. One of the roadblocks could be not knowing where to start, not knowing where to get help. Perhaps if there are bills, if you want to call a meeting, who is going to help foot some bills? Who will provide needed items, even accommodation, meals for such meetings and the like? You could also have feelings that you are not expert enough to advocate. It is a roadblock. So far, we have seen what advocacy is, how to go about it, the tactics, the benefits of advocacy, the stakeholders, and how we can, advocate and come up with success or achieve our goal. Apart from advocacy, we are going to also talk a little about emotional resilience. Emotional resilience here means being able to handle and recover from problems and challenges. Do social workers need this kind of attributes? Of course, yes. While working with their clients, whoever the client is, be it an individual, family, group, or community, they come up with some challenges. So the ability to handle these problems and even recover is emotional resilience. Resilient people are able to utilize their skills and strength to cope and recover from problems and challenges. Such problems and challenges may include loss of job, financial constraint, illness, natural disasters, medical emergencies, divorce, or the death of a loved one. So emotional resilience is important for someone to be able to bear this kind of burdens. Sometimes natural disasters can happen, or even man-made disasters. And some persons, because they couldn't keep up, they couldn't recover, they too can lose their lives. So, what are we going to do? What are the benefits of emotional resilience? Or first, how can we achieve emotional resilience? Everyone must have what is called self-control. Put yourself under control first. You can call for support. Be optimistic that things will get well, or try to come up with problem solving ability. Be aware of your emotional state. Believe in yourself, and to a great extent, have some sense of humor. It will help a lot. Now, what are the benefits of emotional resilience? So now let's explore some practical benefits that emotional resilience can bring to your work as a social worker. By understanding and harnessing these benefits, you can develop the necessary skills to thrive in the face of adversity and make a positive difference in the lives of those we support. So the benefits of emotional resilience include better coping with stress, increased problem-solving skills, enhanced adaptability, improved well-being and mental health, positive influence on others, amongst others. So if we are emotionally resilient, we will be able to cope with stress. It may overwhelm us, but we will not want to lose ourselves because we have some stressors. If we are able to walk through that phase, then whether we like it or not, we have developed a particular problem solving skill. You have become experienced. Other people can look up to you. You could be a point of reference. You could help others. Then enhanced adaptability. You now adapt, be able to adjust yourself, your lifestyle to fit in your new you. Then improved well-being and mental health, positive influence on others. Those are the benefits. All right. So what makes some people more resilient than others? Of course, no two persons can be the same. Every person is unique in their own way. So what makes one person resilient than the other? Now, Think of two people you know, one who is very resilient and one who is not. What makes them different? One is self-belief. When we say self-belief, the person is really, really determined, self-determination. He or she knows that he has prepared the mind to walk through this. Nobody really calls for a problem, but if it comes, be prepared to walk through it. If you do that, you have self-belief and that you know you can get out of it. Purposefulness, that is to say, be goal-oriented, stay focused. So a resilient person has a purpose, will focus on the goal, the success ahead, work through the goal and achieve it. Then adaptability, adjust to changing situations and adapt. The situation has come, adjust. Don't remain the way you were before. Adjust so that you can, pull through and continue. And social support. When we say social support, it means the people that can, stay us up to keep going, like our well-wishers, significant others like our family members, loyal friends, mentor, role model, colleagues, peer group, and age grade. All these ones will be able to help us. So, what are the strategies to developing emotional resilience? They include the following, but not limited to: one, build self-awareness. Be aware of yourself. Build self-awareness. Take time to understand your own emotions and reactions to different situations. For example, as a social worker, you may notice that certain situations trigger feelings of frustration or helplessness. By recognizing this pattern, you can begin to develop strategies to manage and regulate your emotions. Two, seeking support. Reach out to trusted colleagues, friends, or family when you need guidance or a listening ear. If you encounter a particularly challenging situation in the field, discuss it with your colleagues or supervisor. This can help you to gain insight and explore potential solutions. Then the third strategy is developing healthy coping mechanisms. Engage in activities that promote relaxation and stress reduction. And these include exercise, hobbies, or spending time in nature. This will help us to cope and it is very healthy. You can even take a walk around the community. Sometimes sitting alone, thinking can also help. Practice positive thinking. Cultivate a positive mindset by focusing on the strengths and successes in your work. Acknowledge your achievements and remind yourself of the positive impact you have made. So a social worker can be emotionally resilient by, I mean, focusing on the certain things he has done and has gained success. That is positive thinking. It will motivate one to do more. Then setting realistic goals. Set goals you know you can achieve. If what you want to do is really a big project, you can start working on it in bits. Take a task one at a time, then you'll be able to reach your goal. This will help prevent feeling of being overwhelmed and promote a sense of accomplishment. Embracing flexibility. Understand that not everything will go according to plan. Yes, of course. You may plan one thing, and before you even start, or when the process is ongoing, there could be some, roadblocks. Something could come up and thwart that plan or delay it. Be open to adapting and adjusting your strategies when the need for such arises. Practicing self-care. It is important that we take care of ourselves and our mental health so that we can, deliver our services, competently to our clients. If we are not well, if we don't do self-care and we get sick, it may not necessarily be a physical illness. And I mean, if that one is also included, we may have burnout or fatigue and will not be able to do the needful. We will not be able to give our best. So take care of your physical and mental well-being, get enough rest, eat nutritious meals, and engage in activities that bring you joy. Prioritize self-care to recharge and maintain resilience. For instance, make sure to allocate time for relaxation, hobbies, or spending time with loved ones. All this will help us to remain emotionally resilient. Now, the last part of this, ensuring quality service delivery in social work. How are we going to do this? One, continuous professional development. We had already mentioned that professional development. Social workers should engage in ongoing learning and professional development. They should stay updated on the latest research, best practices, and evidence-based interventions in their field. This allows them to provide the most effective and current services to their client. But if you don't continue with professional development, you may be stuck to what they learned in 1914 and you want to come and apply it in 2026. It cannot work. The type of people who lived earlier may not be this generation. So if we develop ourselves, we will be able to practice right. Supervision and consultation. What does this mean? Social workers should seek supervision and consultation from experienced and professional and knowledgeable professionals. Regular supervision sessions can help social workers reflect on their practice, receive guidance, and address any challenges or ethical dilemma that may arise. Consulting with colleagues or experts in specific areas can also provide valuable insight and support. So we do not know it all. Depending on a case you're handling, honestly speaking, a supervisor can call a subordinate. Come, let's put our heads together. But however, our supervisors are streams of knowledge and experiences. Many a time we run to them and it works well for us. Consult them when you are in the field and you are challenged. Use of evidence-based practice. Evidence-based practice involves using interventions that have been scientifically proven to be effective through research and analysis. By using evidence-based practices, social workers can enhance the quality of effectiveness of their services. Then cultural competencies. Social workers should actively strive to understand the client's cultural beliefs, values, and practices. Cultural competencies help social workers develop rapport, establish trust, and provide appropriate and effective services to diverse populations. So, my culture may not be the same with my client, especially if we are not from the same area. So it is important that I had mentioned when it comes to this, the social worker will be learning from the client. They will tell you what is expected of you. Then you'll be able to adjust and adapt to provide services for them. Client-centered approach. Social workers should actively get the client involved in decision-making processes, respect their autonomy, and collaborate with them to develop personalized intervention. Yeah, when we say client-centered approach, you don't just wake up, make a decision about them, say this is what they're going to do for you. What if that doesn't work? Tell them and listen to them. We wish to do this. I hope it will be okay for you. They could bring an idea that may surprise you and works better than the one you wanted to impose on them. So it is important that we bring them in to get involved to make decisions. Monitoring and evaluation. Social workers should regularly monitor and evaluate the impact and outcomes of their interventions. And this involves collecting data, measuring progress, and assessing the effectiveness of the service provided. Then finally, ethical practice. Maintaining a strong adherence to ethical standards is crucial for quality service delivery in social work. Social workers should uphold the principle of confidentiality, informed consent, and respect for autonomy. We have talked we have talked elaborately on confidentiality. But when we say informed consent, a client will need this before you provide services for them. Yeah, because if they give you consent and they're not informed, it can bring about problems. You just tell the person, sign the consent form, and they sign. They don't know the what do I call it? They do not understand the details of this form, and you go ahead and give them services, and it may backfire. So for them to give you consent, they should be well informed so that they will take responsibility because you had given them enough information. On this, I also want to tell you an experience we also had in my agency. It could have happened anywhere. It can happen in the Ministry of Social Welfare, where we also provide services for some persons who go there. But in my agency, a man came with a throat problem. You know, the throat and the lungs are two different things. He had a problem with the throat, and he came to see the expert. We call them the ENT physician. E stands for ear, N stands for nose, and T for throat. These three places are interconnected. So when this man had this problem, he came. He saw the doctor during consultation. They carried out a lot of investigation, that is tests in the lab, and eventually he was told that he needs surgery. And they just said you need surgery, and surgery will correct this and you'll be fine. Then the team, the doctor added, we will place something there that will help you to talk. That man has heard those things, but he is not well informed about what is going to happen to him. Because when a foreign body will be placed in the throat from outside, he will not be able to talk freely until he holds down that thing, this device, before he can talk. So when that surgery was carried out, that device was placed, and the man had believed that it would be removed in a couple of weeks. Week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. You know, he was discharged though, so he was coming for checkup, and I expected that he should be rebooked so that that device would be, but that wasn't done. So he asked the question, for how long am I going to be carrying this device? You know, that he needs to remove it because he's feeling very, very uncomfortable about it. It is then the doctor told him, ah, that is how that thing is going to be. Oh. The man said it cannot be. He didn't tell me that. He said, I did. But you signed the consent form. The man said it cannot be. Even though he couldn't talk, but he was showing with sign language, trying to pull down the device and talk. He was very angry. You know what that man did? He tried his best to bring down the doctors. There was chaos in the hospital because he meant what he said. He said that they didn't tell him that they were going to place that device there, and perhaps it was going to be for a lifetime. If he needs to come and change it, he'll come and change it. They didn't tell him that. That brought a big issue. They had to see the chief medical director. In fact, the man attempted macheting the doctor. He came with a knife, as in I saw him with a machete. Now, this very team that saw him did not include a social worker that was in the theater. They didn't include a social, so no social worker spoke to this man. Nobody gave him the full information, but he only gave consent. That is to say, he gave consent when he wasn't properly informed. It was at this point that the hospital knew that they needed a social worker in the theater so that the social worker will have full knowledge of what will be done, what will happen thereafter, and take time to educate the patient. So informed consent, a person can give consent, but not informed. The social workers, please, when you are working with your client, try to give them informed, good information before they give their consent and respect their autonomy. They should navigate ethical dilemma with integrity and ensure that their actions and decisions are guided by the best interests of their clients. By implementing these strategies, social workers can enhance the quality of their services, improve client outcomes, and contribute to positive social change. This is where we are going to draw the curtain. Since I've been talking alone, if I ask question nobody answered, at this point I have come to the end of the class. Dr. Tara, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
This class has come to an end. From the beginning, nobody has been talking. I've been talking alone. Even if I ask question, nobody answered. So I'm done with the teaching. And I've covered the slide.
That's not good enough for them. Well, it's a crash program for them.
Okay.
They will meet you in exam. Okay, class, how are you today? Hello.
Fine, we are fine, sir. We are fine, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
So people are in this class. This is serious. Eh?
You
Like
can
they're
imagine.
fine.
Okay, yesterday we missed my class because there was no light in my side of Enugu. And for the past 3 days, this is the 4th day, but there's light now. I guess we will need to reschedule my class. So when should we have that class? When should we have it? Remember, you have just this month. You have just this month because this month, end of this month or early next month may be your convocation. And that's why we are rushing things like this for you to at least meet up with your course mates who had their own full session last year, Diet 1 and Diet 2. I don't know why you did not participate in that. Anyway, so when should we have my class?
Sir, please, when will you be free? When will you be free, sir?
When will I be free?
Yes, sir.
Well, I can't say when I'll be free. But we're going to have it during this week. Can we have it during the week? Anytime from tomorrow will be okay. Tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday, anytime you fix, morning or evening.
Tomorrow evening. I don't know. I'm not seeing anything.
Hello.
Sir, evening is okay, sir.
Better.
Like what time? In the evening?
Maybe from 7 to 9 or 6:30 to 8 o'clock is better, sir.
Is that okay with everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So what day?
Tomorrow,
sir.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay. Tomorrow, 6 o'clock?
No, sir. 6:30 to 8:30, sir, or 9.
6:30 to 9?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
though, 6:30 to 8. Some people have work to do. That's too late.
Which work do you have to do? Me, I don't get work. So, it is tomorrow okay or next tomorrow?
Tomorrow, sir. Tomorrow, sir. Tomorrow, sir.
Tomorrow, 6:30, okay. Pray that there will be light. That this will sustain the light for us. Okay. 6:30 tomorrow, let's be hopeful. We'll schedule the class.
Okay, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
goodbye, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Bye, ma. Thank you, sir.
Goodbye.
Thank you, ma.
We'll meet during
Thank you,
exam.
ma.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.